Mr. Yeah. And I'm wearing, my arms aren't covered, and I'm wearing bracelets that don't match. I'm just living on the edge. But they're symmetrical. Pink, iridescent, pink, iridescent. You can't just be all willy-nilly out there. All right, how are you guys? Everybody's enjoying the lovely rainstorm that's coming in Houston, which means we have, hey y'all, which means it's not hot, but it's very humid. Put a question in the chat. Yeah, we don't have any pre-questions, so you guys ask us questions. We did have a big question last week. People wanted to know what this new lipstick was. I hate the name of it, but it's Snob by MAC. Like, they couldn't have named it something else, like Sizzle or something like that. Okay. I'm having my greens, a green drink with a green straw. Okay. Nobody has any questions. That's fantastic. Okay. Somebody always types will lose their subscription benefits soon. What does that mean? Campbell, 1966. What does that mean? What do you love the most about being an advocate? What I love the most about being an advocate is giving a child a future and family hope.
All right, I've got a question here.
Yep.
What cognitives can we give to a student that is hearing impaired?
What cognitive can you give them? Well, if you give it to them in his modality, you know, when you have a child that is deaf and hard of hearing, deaf-blind, or visually impaired, if you're giving any component of the cognitive evaluation and that evaluator doesn't have training in those sorts of disabilities, it really is a wash. Remember that all cognitive evaluations were normed and standardized on 3 types of children. Children that could speak, children that could see, and children that can hear. So I would argue that you're never going to get an accurate interpretation of their cognitive abilities by standardized test.
Can PTSD be treated as a special need?
I think your question is, can PTSD be an eligibility under IDEA? So based on the acuity of it, it might meet eligibility under the category of emotional disturbance. And that's where you have...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If we don't have a teacher in the classroom for more than a month, are we owed compensatory time?
Yes, 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 yes. I'm going to go with yes, yeah.
How can you represent me at my next ARD meeting? The middle school is horrible.
So it sounds like you're in Texas. Welcome to Texas. We love you. Most of us are in Texas too. We have ARD meetings, admission review, and dismissal meetings in Texas. We call them ARDs, or IEP meetings, during the instructional year. So if you're looking for representation, then email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com and we will get you connected with somebody. And this is Too Faced Cloud Blush. Thank you. I look like a toddler, don't I? See? You're doing good things when people want to know about your lip color and your cheek color.
Should after-school and summer school programs follow the IEP?
So after school is not part of the individualized education program. Summer school, if it's for credit recovery, is for credit recovery. Extended school year services are for students in special education, and you would have to follow their IEP.
I signed my ARD in disagreement. What happens next?
So you're allowed 2 disagrees. So if you signed in disagreement, I'm sure the amazing school district in Texas offered you a reconvene. At that reconvene, the point of a reconvene ever is for both parties to take some time and gather more data to solidify their position.
Should a district have set ratios, contain classrooms?
I think districts have guidance, but there's never that I've seen some guidance in some states, but classes ebb and flow. And so what I mean by that is you might have 30 kids in a class that had dyslexia that were manageable by a teacher and maybe an aide, and you might have one student in one class who needs 3 adults. We've seen that with kiddos that are greatly impacted by their disability. So ratios, just like the IEP, have to be individualized.
What kind of resources can 2E kids ask for
At school?
What kind of resources can 2E kids ask for in special education?
So I got to tell you, it's probably the hardest amazing child that we advocate for are 2E kiddos, twice exceptional. So what that means is their IQ is 2 deviations over the norm. It is so hard to find a program for them in public school. So you have to remember that public school is about what we talk about special ed, access to general education curriculum. And while we have testing for kiddos that are gifted when they're little in elementary school, that's usually for a few classes. Sometimes it's just Friday for an hour. But myself and my partners, we struggle to feel like we successfully serve kids that are twice exceptional. The problem is because they are so high cognitive, there rarely is enough educational product for them to be doing during the instructional day. It turns into busy work.
Can we put safety plans in place in an IEP for an incoming kindergartner who elopes?
So you wouldn't put a safety plan, you'd put a behavior intervention plan that is developed off of a functional behavior assessment, but absolutely you need that. You would also want to make sure that he has a PCS, a personal care supplement, that talks about additional minutes that we provide a child that needs attention, high structure, that we need to supervise him through the instructional day.
Have you ever recommended revoking special education classes to reset the district?
Oh, I feel like this is a trick question. I'd like to be able to reset. Wouldn't we, like Christina and Shannon and Danette, we are professional district resetters. Like, we are the volleyball champions of special education. So, parents have a choice, right? They can sign consent to implement initial provision of special education services. They can revoke consent. I've had parents who were in disagreement about parts of an IEP, and they chose, certainly not my recommendation, to revoke consent for special education services. And they got, in that moment, a response from the district that they wanted. However, you could also get a response from the district you ain't wanted, right? So part of an IEP is there are legal protections for the student with a disability. So let's say we're talking about a student that has behavioral needs, right? Once you revoke that, then we are then completely bound by the student code of conduct, its applications, and then its choice of, addressing behavior concerns. So I certainly don't want to roll the dice in that situation. But no, I would not personally ever tell a parent to revoke an IEP to push a district to do something.
I'm in Texas. I requested an FIE and was told that they did not feel there was an educational need for the testing.
Right. So not really concerned about your feelings. Feelings have no intellect. So should you choose to deny me testing when I've notified you that I suspect my student has a disability, please provide me that denial in a prior written notice that meets all 7 federal requirements. Muffin. If you add muffin on the end, I think it's always a good look.
My child was eligible for ESY, and I received an email from the special education teacher that no data would be taken during ESY because they were only working on maintaining the skills.
That's accurate. We're not collecting data on IEP goals because we're not looking for progress, right? We have to implement the IEP goal. Again, ESY is for maintenance, right? So 2 things, right? A student has documented regression with a profound amount of time for recoupment. I hope that they're taking some data, but we're not taking data on the IEP goal as we would during the instructional year because we're trying to increase something, right? We're just trying to do maintenance. The second prong for that would be concern for loss of critical skills. So, ESY is a gift. It's also, kind of a roulette wheel. You get who you get. And so it's about making sure that those skills that we did acquire, that we don't have that summer slide.
What can I ask the school if my third grade daughter failed the STAR, even with accommodations?
What can you ask for the school? So if she has an IEP, let's look at making that more robust services, more specially designed instruction, more targeted intervention. Maybe we need different IEP goals. If you're not on an IEP, I certainly would be reaching out to them asking for special education testing.
Can a school decline a parent request for a meeting?
They can't decline a request for an IEP meeting, right? So if I reach out to the school and say, hey, it's Karen Mayer Cunningham, I'm reaching out to have a meeting for my son James, I want to review IEP meeting, they have to hold the meeting, whether they like me or lump me.
What is the difference between an IEP and a 504?
Everything. So a 504 is the 1973 Rehabilitation Act, and it's a congressional act that covers everybody in America with a disability, that they cannot be discriminated against and denied their accommodation. So that is, I say from womb to tomb. That's if you're in public school, that's if you're at work, if you're 50 years old and you have a disability, you can't be denied your accommodations based on your disability. So it was a legal protection. It's a civil right. It is not an educational product. Listen to me. That's why it's not called an educational product. It's a civil right. And in 28 years of doing this, I can count on less than one hand that a 504 was right for a kiddo. If you want your child to have an educational plan, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which came about in 1990 after being the Educating All Handicapped Children Act in 1975, then that's where we get an educational product for our child. We get supports and services and goals and targeted intervention, especially design intervention. And there's an onus, an obligation, a duty for the school to enable your student to make progress in light of their unique circumstances.
Okay, my child is non-speaking. What should I be asking the school for?
So you would be asking for a robust, full and individual evaluation. You want to ask for all 8 areas. Number 1, a speech and language evaluation to include pragmatic. Number 2, sociological. Number 3, medical physical. Number 4, a full cognitive evaluation to include all 7 Gs. Number 5, formal adaptive behavior. Number 6, a full psychological evaluation. Number 7, formal achievement. And number 8, related and instructional services. And in that related instructional services, you're going to ask for a formal assistive technology evaluation in the area of communication. So we have such amazing technology in communication, which is what we're doing with each other. I'm using my phone to communicate with you. And the second that you have a child with a profound speech impairment, you should get that evaluation. Do not listen to anybody, an SLP, a teacher, a principal that tells you we're going to wait. If your child's language is not in the normed and average range, you need to intervene. And we love the technology. The biggest gap in special education, the biggest gap anywhere between humans, is our ability to connect and communicate. And the fact that we have that technology now and people don't use it is just, it's criminal for kiddos.
What is some advice that you have for a new administrator?
Oh, thank you. Don't make people pay to wear jeans. If you're going to celebrate them, don't have something in May called Franks for Thanks. Don't do that. Let your team know that you are proud of them, that you want to partner with them, and you want to equip them, and don't micromanage them, and ask them what kind of education they would like for you to have as vendors to come into school and train them.
Is there such a thing for a parent choice of school on a hardship transfer?
I don't know. So you can always ask for a transfer for whatever reason you ask for a transfer. I'm not a fan of that unless this is the last transfer ever, right? Because let's say that Shannon transfers, Billy to a great junior high for 6th grade, and he's loving it, and he's on the football team. And the next year you have a new principal that doesn't like Shannon and goes, bloop, you don't get the transfer anymore. So, but hopefully there's somebody at the district that you can talk to that will understand your unique circumstances and make what's right available for kids. In whatever grade that they needed to acquire that credit. So it's not really based upon an IEP. It's another type of instructional product in your school district that's shorter, more compact, so that your child can get the content, get tested for it, and hopefully acquire that credit.
We have a mediation coming up, and I am nervous. What should we expect?
Well, that's a really good question. So I'm actually a certified mediator in Houston, and I participate in a lot of meetings at mediations in special education. I can't tell you what to expect because you're going to be dealing with humans, and humans, unlike you and I, are flawed, right? Here's what I can share with you. Be prepared to talk about the legal components that you believe were denied or not delivered to your child. I would recommend that you don't talk about how you feel about the process, but you stick to those components. And we've got a great series, which we're probably about to redo also, but we have a great series in Special Education Academy on procedural rights and safeguards. What are your rights under IDEA? Were you denied meaningful participation? Were you denied IEP team membership? Were you denied access to records? Was your child denied a free appropriate public education? Were you denied participation in placement? Were you denied participation in developing the IEP? Were your parent concerns for developing the IEP not considered? Those are the legal components that you want to look at. If you're wondering what legal components are, if you go to your state's website, it will list all the due process hearings for that state, and you can look at the areas that are litigated under due process, and that'll sort of give you a framework as well.
Students' behavior impedes his learning, but grades are not impacted. What can be done?
So don't believe in grades. Sorry. Even if your kid's the valedictorian. I don't know if they really are. Did I say dicturian? Yeah, the valedictorian. That's like a Southern thing. I don't believe grades anymore because we have pressured teachers to pass everybody. So I have kids that can't tie their shoes and they're on the AB honor roll in 5th grade. So I don't know what we've done to teachers. That's not the teacher's fault. That is leadership. So an educational need can show up in a number of ways, right? Emotionally, cognitively, your ability to attend, your ability to initiate, your ability to sustain, functionally, emotionally, communicative. So there's lots of other ways that your disability can show up that's not necessarily an academic IEP.
What do you recommend for a student food allergy?
Hang on just a second. Okay, ask me again.
What do you recommend for a student with food allergies, an IEP or a 504?
Maybe neither. I recommend that you have an IHP, an individualized healthcare plan, on file with the school and the nurse, and that all the people providing him an educational product are aware of it. And so you may not need a 504 or an IEP either way, but that might be adequate if you solely had an individualized healthcare plan.
The students being held back for attendance, even though they've missed 100+ days in prior years, is that allowed?
Yes. I mean, if you didn't attend school, there's no way that you could have acquired the knowledge that was taught.
Okay. I'm nervous. ASD kiddos starting middle school. Is there anything that I should be monitoring?
I mean, when our kids go from elementary school to middle school, a lot of them we're nervous, right? And middle school teachers are the most amazing group of teachers that you like kiddos that are turning from kiddos to young adults. And so, asked to partner with the campus. I would give them what I call a Zach pack. I would get a picture of my kiddo and kind of a one sheet. Hey, here's what, Zach's really good at. Here's what'll set him off. Here is when he's going to be great at working with groups. Here's when he's not going to be great at working with groups. He would do better if he had breaks. Kind of give them a summary of what the IEP says, and then offer to ask them if they need a copy of the IEP, if they need a copy of his accommodations, any of those things. But you know, we got to let our little babies go, and kind of this is a good point to do that. But certainly, like, here's my cell number. It's easier to get a hold of me during the day. You can email my husband. That's the easiest way to do it. Here's his stepmom. Here's grandma. We're all on deck to support you. Thanks, you guys, for all the gifts. Sorry.
No. They said my son had to wait earlier to evaluate him for an AAC because we only had 2 weeks left of school.
So, I mean, you want the evaluation to be done with fidelity, right? There's a reason nationally that an evaluation takes 45 school days, 60 school days, because we want it done right. We're not at the Starbucks getting a coffee in the drive-thru. And so I would actually say I don't want you to also start in the first couple of weeks of school. I want him to get acclimated a little bit. Once he's like found his way, then I would probably say 4 weeks after school starts, I would like for you to start the evaluation. And let me tell you why. Because the first few weeks of school is the honeymoon phase, and they might be having a fit, and they might be having, you know, a party in the USA. And both of those could be wrong, right? I want to give him time to get acclimated before I start evaluating him and observing him and making recommendations.
My student was kicked off of the cheer team after the coach said cheer isn't.
So it's breaking up a little bit. Is that breaking up for you guys when Christina talks? Or do you think she has the hiccups? So if you'll just not break up in Dallas when you talk, and then try again.
All right, let's try this again.
Okay.
Student was kicked off the cheer team by the coach. Cheer is not for you due to your arthritis.
Yeah, so cheer is not part of your IEP. Football is not part of your IEP. Wrestling is not part of your IEP. The debate club is not part of your IEP. That I certainly understand that, and kind of understand that, right? Cheer is like more of a hands-on sport than the sports my boys played, right? I have family and clients that their kids have been in cheer, and like, my goodness, that is it's very easily to be injured. So if you did have arthritis, would that be responsible for me to let you on the cheer team? And I don't know. I'm completely an outsider. I know that's terrible because I know your kiddo was probably so excited about it. Maybe see if there's a pep squad, something that's literally lower impact that he or she could participate in, and maybe that's a route that you could take. Or just make your own pep squad in the stands. Just have your own uniform, bedazzle it, backcomb their hair, and go to the football games.
Is physical aggression considered a disability related to autism, and can they be suspended?
So physical aggression is an action, right? It's a behavior. So the question that we have to ask, is this behavior tied to what we know about by history or pattern to their disability? So have I had kids that were physically aggressive, and in the manifestation, determination, resolution, we decided that was part of their disability? Yes. Have I had that happen as well, and we just said it wasn't part of their disability? So if a child has physical aggression, that's a behavior and need that we want to address in a functional behavior assessment and a behavior intervention plan.
What should I do? Student has severe aggressive behaviors and the school won't pay for alt ed.
The school won't pay for what?
Alt ed.
Alt ed. So I don't know. So those are two totally different things. So behaviors and alternate education. So alternate education is a requirement in schools. It's not something you have to pay for. If you're asking for behavior education, we do now have many great professionals at the district level. They may not be actually at your campus. I would reach out to the district level and see if there's something that we could do to intervene. You know, sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes, as myself and my partners know, public school is not the right setting for our kids with severe behavior disabilities, and we have to consider out-of-district placement at the expense of the district.
you, since my son's SCIA was displaced because they thought I'd agreed to the removal of SCIA.
So I would ask for documentation of where I agreed to any change in the IEP. This would be a very important point for all of you guys listening. Assume competence and be prepared for having to file a dispute resolution session. So I record all of my IEP meetings that I'm allowed to in all but 6 states. Why? Just because so many things happen. I have 3, 4, 5, 6 IEP meetings a day. So do my partners. To say that I would remember everything that was said here or there, and sometimes you get paperwork back and somebody, you know, Shannon put he has speech 2 times a year. No, it's 2 times a week. And so the reason that we record in a courtroom is so we remember what's said. So I certainly would go back and get that fixed.
Is special education different in each state?
Sweetie, it's different in every building. So it wasn't supposed to be. So special education is a service that a student needs that's more than the general education teacher solely can provide. We have an amazing framework called this little tiny book. I'm sure you all were given one as special education teachers when you walked into the building. So this is the federal code. This is 34 CFR, Title 34, Volume 2 of 4. There's 4 volumes. So this is Part B of IDEA. There's 4 parts, A, B, C, D. So this is your special education Bible. We shouldn't be allowed to open a public school without the principal having one, without every special ed teacher having one. This should be given to you by the school district. But the federal government and the federal laws and requirements are the same in every single state in America. Even Louisiana. Yeah.
ESY seems to be a gray area. How do you know if the school district is denying FAPE?
If you haven't looked at the 2 prongs of ESY, right? The 2 prongs of ESY are rarely talked about. We get into ESY meetings and people say, well, he didn't have documented regression on IEP goals, so he's not going. Or they say even worse things. ESY is for kids that don't go to the bathroom on their own. ESY is for kids that are really disabled. You don't want your kids around those kids in ESY. Oh, right? So we mischaracterize ESY and we do not communicate to the parent the 2 criteria. So it's documented regression on IEP goals and concern for loss of critical skills.
Does FAPE cover school-sanctioned extracurricular events?
It does. So if your extracurricular events are tied to a grade, then yes. So 2 of my kids were in the marching band because it's Texas and we're going to wear polyester on Friday nights. That's just what we're going to do in Texas. And so going to marching band and going to football games was tied to their grade. So let's say that your child needed a paraprofessional in marching band class, and if they needed that paraprofessional to be successful at the 13 football games that are required, then you would have to implement that.
Will you show the book again?
I would. It would be better if the book was pink. So this is the book. So we have it in our link. In our Amazon bookstore. I think it's $40, but everybody needs to have this that's in special education. Every principal, every evaluator, every general ed teacher, every special education teacher, every amazing parent. Everybody should have a copy.
How long should it take for the school to respond with testing for special education?
So the testing is quantified in your state. Some states are 30 school days. Some states are 45 school days, and some states are 60 school days. That will be in your procedural safeguards. So you can just type in procedural safeguards, Idaho, they will come up. And it will tell you how many school days are used to complete an evaluation. Oh, now the children want to call me? They didn't answer earlier, did they?
How do I become an advocate?
So you become an advocate. So take our training. We have the best training ever. We have a 2-day intensive that you can take on demand, take at your leisure. You have the recordings. We have a very, very deep, robust mastermind. And then we have standalone products on our website, digital products that you can purchase, whether it's Office of Civil Rights filings, which I think is one of our best trainings. It's 5.5 hours long. How to get your child tested, what's supposed to be in the testing. And then join us on Special Education Academy. We're there every Tuesday night. You need weekly training. This is such an important space. And there are things that ebb and flow, and there are hot topics that come up and down. I would love to tell you that you can expect somebody at your school to have that information. It's not my experience that you find people in schools that are knowledgeable about special education law. I just don't find that. I rarely find that in school district attorneys. So people at your school went to school to be an evaluator. They went to school to be a teacher. They went to school to be a special ed teacher. They did not go to school to learn about special education and federal and state laws.
Inclusion in a general education is not always the most beneficial for some students. So sometimes LRE is a substrate room. Why is there such a push for inclusion into general education?
My opinion, so 10 years ago, I couldn't get a kid included, right? So, you know, I would love to say that it's never about money, but I would be a liar. So LRE says that we educate students with disabilities to the maximum extent possible with their non-disabled peers with support strategies and supplementary aids and services. When that doesn't work, then we look for a more supported setting. I much rather say a more supported setting than least restrictive environment. And there are kiddos that it's the most appropriate place to implement their education is in a special ed setting, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't have to be from bell to bell. We have to look at it across content area, and I think so many schools just defer to, he goes to a program, he goes to a program, which really takes the eye out of the IEP.
Does each EA complaint?
It's probably me. You want to try again?
Does each state have their own steps to make an IDEA complaint?
So an IDEA complaint is a denial of FAPE. So a denial of FAPE can be handled through a district complaint, a state complaint, mediation, due process, or some components are addressed in the Office of Civil Rights, U.S. Department of Education. But they're not IDEA complaints. They're complaints about a denial of FAPE, which is the whole point of IDEA, that we deliver a free, appropriate public education to individuals with disabilities between the ages of 3 and 22.
This one's in Texas. Do you have to prove there was regression to get compensatory minutes? Student went 6 weeks without services.
No. I mean, we agreed we have to implement the IEP on the conformity of it, right? Oh my gosh, now everybody wants to talk to me. Hold on. We're very busy. So the question was, you want to ask the question again? Shannon is going to ask the question again with feeling.
No, I lost the question. Hang on.
Yeah. Do you need compensatory time if there was no teacher for
Yeah.
6 weeks? That's a great question, Shannon. Let me answer that.
Do you have to prove regression to
No.
get compensatory time?
No. No. You don't have to prove anything. If that was the case, then we could never have a teacher and go, look, they didn't regress. So what was missed was the entire IEP. If there was no teacher, there was no specially designed instruction. You didn't have to regress. You didn't have a teacher, right? The accommodations didn't happen. The services didn't happen. The specially designed instruction didn't happen. So that's a denial of FAPE. Let's talk about how we're going to fix that at the table and provide the parents a compensatory package. So having a teacher or not having, those are non-negotiables. So somebody's asking for the Amazon link to order the book. So I'm just going to jump in. So if you go to the link tree in TikTok, or if you go to Special Education Academy, there's a bookshelf. Bookshelf. Okay, go ahead.
How long does a school have to respond to a request for an IEE in Texas?
They have to grant or deny the IEE. I don't think I know the exact days. I'm going to say probably 15 days. If they deny the IEE, then they have to file due process on you, which is so exciting.
Okay, Okay, here's another IEE question. Can a parent request an IEE for an area that has not yet been assessed by the district?
You can request it, but I wouldn't do it that way. So let's say that Danette did a speech evaluation, but she didn't do pragmatic. So I'm going to start out, would you be opposed? You want to start with no-oriented questions. It's hard to say no. It's hard to say yes to a no-oriented question. Danette, would you be opposed as the SLP to go back, make an addendum to this evaluation, and do the pragmatic component? And she'll say, that's a fantastic idea, Karen. Or if she says, no, well then I'll ask for an IE, and then we'll add for all those areas. But if the school hasn't done it, then you didn't disagree with their evaluation yet.
It was wait for the school to request an IEP.
Sorry, we'll have to try again. I'm sure this has to be a me issue. I'm sure it's not you. I just want to hear your voice again, Christina.
Do I have to wait until the first day of school to request an IEP?
No, I mean, I request IEPs every day. So almost my entire week of August 5th, it's already full, people. It's already full. So district members work year round. They're not off. So if Billy's moving here from Georgia to Texas, we'd like an IEP meeting. I certainly want to get that on the books before school starts. There's no requirement for them to have an IEP meeting before school starts, though.
For a child with behavioral issues, what would you put in an IEP and their check-in, check-out from their 504?
I mean, I don't know about the acuity of his behavior, right? So a lot of times behavior, you have to know what the root cause is, right? I have kiddos that turn into behavior kiddos in 3rd grade, and it's because they have specific learning disabilities and we didn't test for that, right? So what is the reason for the behavior? If I don't know what the reason for the behavior is, I can't craft the specially designed instruction. Is it maladaptive behavior? Is it a pattern? Is it something that was allowed by a sibling? Is it something that he's modeling in other kids in a self-contained setting? Is he frustrated because you're asking him to do math and he has a math disability? So I would have to know what is the root, what is the function of that behavior, and then I could write IEP goals around that, a behavior intervention plan.
The district, the MDR document to show they failed to implement the 504 even though they admitted failure. What can I do?
Not much. You can't really do much on a 504. And so my recommendation to you is save your bandwidth, get an IEP, and get a behavior intervention plan that serves him properly. Oh, hang on just a second. Hang on just a second. Oh, now I know what the problem is. I have the Wi-Fi on a different modem. Let me fix that. Nothing to see here, people. Nothing to see here, people. This is what happens when I'm alone, on the nightly news here.
There you go.
Don't tell Alicia, y'all. It'll be our secret.
Yeah, well. All right, is a long-term sub with no degree a teacher?
I don't think so, but you could be in Madagascar. I don't know. So in Texas, you couldn't possibly be a special educator if you weren't a teacher first. So love a long-term sub. Are they qualified to implement the IEP? Are they qualified to implement the general ed part of the IEP? Are they qualified to implement the accommodations? Have they ever even seen the IEP? So you're either a certified teacher or you're not. There is no gray area. There might be gray area with you, and you guys might have a really big soft spot for that. I don't. So wouldn't have a soft spot if somebody was my son's football coach and he didn't make them wear helmets. So until we stand up in a sanitized professional way and say, we're not doing this anymore, we're going to keep doing it.
How do you get the IEP team to give you accommodations?
So that's funny. It's sort of like getting, extra sweet and sour sauce at McDonald's. So they're not giving you anything. You are the IEP team. Parents are part of the IEP team. They're actually the first stakeholder in the federal law. So I'm so excited that we're going to collaborate today as a team and talk about needed accommodations for Billy to be successful. Nobody is giving you anything. Nobody's giving you anything. They receive federal funds for your child. You are not being given anything. They're not doing something nice for you. It is the law in America. Let's take that word out of our mouth and throw it away.
Do you need to do an evaluation for an FBA every time the behavior box is checked?
No, I mean, the point of an FBA is when we need to determine the function of a behavior, right? A good team that serves kids with disabilities, it's not hard to figure that out. There's only four types of functions of a behavior, right? And so that's taught in PBIS. So if we have new behaviors, and maybe they're an onset from a medical condition, maybe they're an onset from something, a sociological situation, then we might have to relook at that. But, you know, when I do a reevaluation every 3 years, we're required to look at a triennial. I might say, you know, maybe he's switching campuses, maybe, you know, the elementary school is used to it, but he's going to intermediate. Let's do a new FBA. Or maybe let's do an FBA when he gets to the new campus, so that staff really knows what's going on.
Can you meeting without the new school year's teacher or no representation for the next grade?
You need the 5 stakeholders, right? So let's say that you're at Elm Elementary School and you're going to Woody Junior High. You don't have to have a representative from the junior high. It'd be helpful, but it's not a requirement if he's not in the junior high yet.
Can a sub with no teaching certificate complete my son's minutes for ESY?
Well, ESY is solely children in special education. So say it with me. No.
What if 3/4 functions are identified in the FBA? Can a parent request a reassessment?
Yeah, I mean, an FBA is an evaluation. If you disagree with the evaluation, you can ask for an IE.
Can my son be denied a paraprofessional? He gets overwhelmed and distracted. He does well one-on-one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of us would do well one-on-one, right? But we have to give a child special education and then also give them the ability to see what they can do once we've delivered that instruction, right? Whether it's general ed or special education. So I am not a fan of a permanent one-on-one. Why? It's totally muddies the data. I don't know if he's doing that because Miss Christina's there and he loves Miss Christina and he wants to make Miss Christina happy. It's hard to separate out when that adult, that loving adult, is helping your kiddo. So what I do is I say, let's break this up. He has 405 instructional minutes a day at Elm Elementary School. Let's talk about what happens at breakfast. He loves breakfast. Okay, you don't need a para. What happens at carpet time? He loves that. We get to have a dance off and talk about the weather and what's going to happen in Arizona. Okay, what's next? Math. He hates math. He's all over the room. Okay, then we need para support then. And I think that we just do this, you know, all day long, and it sets up learned dependency, and they're really hard to separate over time.
Is it typical that a pre-K IEP gets dissolved before entering kindergarten?
Not dissolved. What is this, a bath bomb? No. What? No. If they're in pre-K, then they have a document. We're going to use that for baseline. We're going to make adjustments or continue something or make it more grade appropriate, but it doesn't dissolve. No. It's dissolving.
My child has had the same goals for 2 years and hasn't made progress. What should I do?
Get an advocate. Just go in there and hold up a picture of me and go, is this the smoke you want? No, I'm just kidding. So I would call an IEP meeting and say that I'm concerned that we're denying my son a free, appropriate public education. The legal requirement under Andrew F., March 22nd, 2017, which is the law of the land, says that the school is charged with reasonably calculating the IEP to enable the student to make progress in light of their circumstances. We haven't done that. We need to make adjustments right now.
Okay. My son's school wants him to go to a more restrictive OOD because they are not trained to deal with him.
And so sometimes we have to look at things soberly, right? I actually appreciate when schools are honest. Our partners appreciate when schools are on. I would rather know that you don't know what to do with them, you're not trained to do with them, or you don't think he can learn. And unfortunately, myself and my partners have heard all of this from adults. I would rather be at another campus if those persons are good at what they do and can mitigate the acuity of his disability, right? Sometimes we get so stuck with, this is the campus that I went to and his sister went there. If you can't educate him based on his circumstances, we've got to listen to the district on that. Now, we can certainly call a meeting, talk about the appropriateness. Could you bring staff in? But, I certainly then don't want a classroom within a classroom. I have kids that are sitting in the principal's office all year and the kid likes it. Well, that's a terrible model because he can't stay in the principal's office all year. And so sometimes we have to look at if we need to switch campuses, if there's a more appropriate setting for him to get an educational benefit. And it feels like such a big deal when we're moms and dads and grandmas and surrogate parents, but this is about the next 80 years after he graduates high school.
How long does an IEP last, and can someone lose their IEP?
An IEP lasts for 36 instructional weeks. So let's say that we start your IEP October 10th, 2024. It would go through October 9th, 2025. Can you lose it? It's not that you lose it, but let's say for some reason, Shannon decides to homeschool because she likes children, and she does, at her house all day long, right? And she's decided the kids are not going back to school till they're in high school. What I would tell her to do is I would tell her to keep having that annual IEP meeting, then you have an IEP in place. But if you don't go back to the school every year for the annual IEP meeting, even if you're homeschooling him, if at some point things change, and things change in life, and the child needs to go back to school, like let's say that Shannon gets a job at, being, in charge of the free world, then you have to get back in line like everybody else. You have to have testing, and you have to wait those 45 school days, which is 9 weeks, and then you have to wait another 30 days to have an IEP meeting. That's a very long time, right? That's 13 weeks of the school year. So that's a problem. So I would make sure that if there's any tiny crevice that they're ever going to go back to school, that you keep up with that annual IEP. All right. Y'all are so well behaved now that I've got you on the right modem. Or you're frozen. Oh, there you were. Okay.
You're still freezing for me.
I am freezing. Huh.
Data is collected by teacher observation. Does that mean there is no need to collect data, only observe?
So in Andrew F., March 22nd, 2017, if you pull off the entire decision made by the U.S. Supreme Court justices, and it was a unanimous decision, one of the justices, I think it was Justice Roberts, I could be wrong, said, a teacher observation is an opinion that can't be verified. Oh, so that's not how we take data. If myself and Danette and Shannon and Christina watch a car wreck in front of us and the police officer asks us what happens, all four of us have a different observation. So data is something I can photocopy, screen share, and print out on a computer.
If your district cannot meet your child's needs and sends them to an out-of-district placement, can the district be held responsible to help with transportation?
So if the district sends your child to another campus, if your district sends your child anywhere, they have to provide transportation, for sure. It may not be the transportation you want, but they have to provide transportation.
My daughter's teacher told us it was too late in the year to evaluate for an IEP in December.
Oh, I thought you were going to say in May. Maybe she's on the wrong calendar cycle. Maybe she only works half the year. I would say, what the Hello Kitty are you talking about? Yeah, that's gonna be a problem for me. So denying a child testing is denying them child find. That's a serious violation.
Who should attend a 504 meeting?
People that have an educational need and information about the student.
Is a drafted IEP at an initial eligibility meeting considered predetermination?
No, it's called collaboration. We love it. If you're going into a business meeting, do you all go in there with no information? Or do you have documents that you take with each other and you share with each other? Even attorneys, before they go into court, are required by the judge to disclose all documents to the other side 5 business days ahead of time. Why wouldn't you want me to have a copy of those components that we're going to talk about? So predetermination means you come in on no and you leave on no. That you are just, it's your way or the highway. That you didn't listen to the IEP team members and you didn't give it consideration. IDEA was built on the consensus model. It doesn't mean that we come to consensus, but that I can articulate, even if I disagree with Danette, I can articulate her position and have understanding around it.
What does it mean when your child reaches the age where the child can participate in the IEP meetings?
Well, your child can participate in the IEP meetings at any time. If you want to bring your 3-year-old in, you can. So the federal law from the 2004 reenactment of IDEA said that we added transition. And transition means that we're charged with writing components of the document to make them post-secondary ready for gainful employment, independent living, and further education. And so those start at 16, 15, 14. Florida, it starts at 12. And the school is obligated to invite your child. It's your decision. Ask me what I think about it. So I don't recommend having children with disabilities come into meetings with adults. I feel like it's a little contrived. I certainly think that the transition specialist should have interviewed the student, interviewed the parent, the parents. But I don't find a child with a disability is in charge of their IEP meeting. I understand there was good intention behind that. That's just my experience. You might completely disagree with that, and that's fine. But I, as the advocate and the parent and the school, can get those information pieces from the student ahead of time. But they're certainly allowed to attend the meeting. But ultimately, until they're 18, it's the parent's decision, no matter what, no matter what.
If a student gets approved for an extra aide in the class for them, how long does the school have to hire the aide?
5 seconds. I mean, if we decided on it May 20th, and it's for the next school year, they got all summer. If we decided on it Friday, we need to have one Monday. It was on a Monday. I got a pair of. Oh my God, she scared me. I felt like we were at the carnival. That was so good. That's a little bit different octave than Alicia does, but I like it.
I know. I was sitting here going, do I ring a bell?
You know what you need? You need one of those cowbells from the Texas State Fair. That's what we need. That. Yes.
I have cowbells.
You do?
Yes, drum kit, the cowbell.
You guys remind me, I need one of, there's this guy that I watch, I can't even think of his name, but he's like adorable. He's this Atlanta attorney, and he has this button that he pushes that goes, boom, boom, boom. I need to get that. Yeah, it makes.
Yes, you do.
I need that.
Okay. So we love ourselves some emojis. So rapid fire questions. What is happening in 30 minutes, Karen?
So Special Education Academy. So you guys need to be in the academy. I don't know why anybody would not be in the academy. We talk every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central on the federal law. Right now we're in a series related to instructional services under IDEA. And then we open up to answer the rest of your questions. So any questions that you didn't get answered here, we can answer. It's an amazing group of people. They're educators, parents, teachers, paras, cats, dogs, all sorts of people, lots of kiddos that should be in bed, but they want to stay up and say hi to Miss Karen. You need this weekly training so that you can be on top of what are the requirements, what's going on in Idaho, what happened with vision in Nevada. So we want to be able to equip you and resource you on things that are happening in real time, and that is the best way to be a part of that. So you would go to specialeducationacademy.com, you would go to trainings, and you would sign up and put in your credit card information for Special Education Academy. You'll get it for 2 weeks free when you put in coupon code TikTok Live in all caps. Won't be spelling that for you. TikTok Live in all caps. I'm sure Shannon put it in there somewhere. And then you'll get a free membership for 15 days. We have hundreds and hundreds of hours of archived trainings that we've done for the last 3 years, and they're in series, so you can watch whatever you want. At the end of 15 days, you'll be charged $47 for the monthly fee. If you want to cancel at any time, you can do that. People make mistakes. We won't hold it against you. You can come back anytime because we want to equip everyone that sits at the 504 IEP table to navigate and negotiate successful student outcomes.
what can happen to a school when they violate child find?
Nothing unless you file. And if I haven't trained you anything, unless you properly file, we are not going to bring about change in special education. And we are doing that well. My partners do it well. I do it well. And that's one of the things that we train on.
I filed an OCR complaint. It's been more than 180 days. Should I get an answer soon?
So I have an OCR complaint that was opened in October 2021. So I just actually got an OCR complaint that I opened in June of 2022. The Office of Civil Rights, U.S. Department of Education, there's about 2,600 investigators for 50 states. You can do the math on that. Some states are way busier than others. You can thank me and Shannon and Christina for that in Texas. It'll be a little bit faster in Wyoming and Colorado. Office of Civil Rights does a number of discriminatory areas. You can look on there. And they decide which is weightier, which goes fast. We've had OCR complaints opened and addressed very quickly, and then we've had them take years. So the 180 days is the time that they have to gather your information and gather the information from the school district. I'm not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV, but the school district can ask for an extension. The parent can ask for an extension. And almost always, in my experience and our partners' experience, the federal government's going to grant the extension. So you can't rush them to the federal government. It's free. They're not charging you. I think they're a phenomenal entity. I would just follow up and go, hey, I'm just checking on this case. Is there anything else that you need from me or my client or any documentation? And they'll give you an update.
How can we hire you or one of the other advocates to represent my family?
Yeah, just email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com and we will get you somebody amazing, because we just have amazing.
All right. Does a child have to have a behavioral need before they can have special education testing?
No, they have to have an educational need. So special education is for kids that have an educational need. What about that student is not in the normed and average range? It could be academics, it could be communication, it could be emotional, it could be behavioral, it could be functional, it could be sensory, it could be vision, hearing, language, anything.
All right, and then could you tell us one more time what are the 8 areas to test in?
No, I can't do that. I can only do it once a night. So the 8 areas
for the academy and
yeah. So the 8 So the 8 areas are: number 1, speech and language evaluation to include pragmatic. Number 2, medical physical. Number 3, sociological. Number 4, cognitive evaluation to include all 7 Gs. Number 5, formal adaptive behavior. Number 6, formal achievement to include reading, writing, math, OE, and LC, oral expression, listening comprehension. Number 7, a full psychological evaluation. And number 8, related services. I should get a shirt that says that.
You should
ask me about testing.
Over and over,
yeah.
Over and over.
Yeah. Clearly, I've not been tested. No.
All right. And then how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, if you want to get a hold of me or our advocates, it's a really good time of the year to have records reviews. You had a junky, skunky, funky last year, whether it was general ed, 504, IEP. Contact one of us and get one of our advocates, one of our partners, to do a records review, and they can give you recommendations and next steps. You want to go into the next year fully prepared for an amazing, fantastic year. So you can reach out and get any of us, or you need a filing, any of that, at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. Advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. So thank you guys for jumping on in the summer solstice. Stay cool or out of the flood zone, or keep your hair do good. Remember, we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training.